Please, internet, hold up. Please, internet, hold up. How about this? You hear that? May someone hear it from your end too. We got to get this thing going, right?
I already popped the top on my can of soda, so
You're good
how am I
there.
sounding, by the way?
You sound good. I hope my internet holds up. Lightning abounds
Lightning
in Colorado.
and I didn't know it affected internet. Like, I guess, unless it struck something. Well, let's hopefully it'll calm down and this will reflect the mood of an orange and blue tonight. Orange and blue after dark.
I kind of like these after dark shows, Mace. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, it's a different feel.
They're
It's a
worth
different
savoring.
vibe.
Even though it's a little hard for me
It's different.
to see my notes here in the darkness. Let me get my. There we go. Get the.
Hello,
Okay.
darkness, my old friend.
Oh gosh. Well, the Bronco. I mean, it's actually sort
Yeah.
of apt.
Again,
because you
we're
can say the
working
Bron-
through.
What?
Go ahead. Just keep going. Keep
I
going.
said
Keep
it's
going.
actually sort of apt because the Broncos have kind of been wandering through darkness for these last several years. So
Yeah. It's a Saturday brain dump, man.
are they
What
coming out of the darkness, or is there a little bit more of a path through grim times ahead in 2024? If you ask the national media, they'll tell you grim times ahead.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
If you ask Cecil Lammey, you've got them with a winning season. I think they have a respectable season. I'm somewhere in between. I'm taking the middle ground.
Yeah. I say light at the end of the tunnel, and the light at the end of the tunnel is Bo Nix. We're here to talk about it on tonight's show. Jarrett Stidham's ahead of him after a week.
Yeah.
That's the title. I think Doug in the chat room, sorry if it's not Doug, but I saw the chat was like, who said that? Well, we're saying that because it's been a week, and yeah, Jarrett's ahead.
And that's fine. He probably should be ahead. I mean,
Sure. Mm-hmm.
there's something that I was thinking as I was reflecting on the quarterback performances today. I say performance is the wrong word. It's practice. I mean, yeah, you've got, a couple thousand fans on the hillside, but it's practice. Jarrett Stidham is operating within the structure. And within that structure, most of the time, there's going to be something comfortable and open, which is why it's jarring when he has a rep like he did in 7-on-7 where he kind of holds the ball too long. I did. It's funny. Like that moment, I was actually part of the Randy Gradishar scrum, but I did see that happen. But the thing with Jarrett Stidham is because he's operating within the structure, it's very much kind of controlled fairways and greens, and there isn't that dynamic element. Like he hasn't had a pass like the one that Bo Nix hit to Javonte Williams today, which was a touchdown, and it was not long after his interception. It was one period later, and it was a dime. And Javonte had to reach out for it, but no, it was a play that could not end in a turnover. It was placed where, and we talked about this with Bo Nix on a pass to Michael Bandy back in OTAs, and Bandy couldn't come up with it. It was placed where only Javonte Williams could get to it. Something like that. That's when we're talking about placement of the balls of Bo Nix. That's what we're talking about.
Yes, and it's more than accuracy with Bo Nix. It's pass placement, and we see that with a few of his throws. Another David Sills throw today. He's having a good connection. David Sills, Michael Bandy, they're putting up a fight, man. They're probably not going to make the 53, but you like to see their performances a week into camp.
That's the thing. Like we're talking about these guys, and they're making plays, and there really isn't a path for them to the roster in all likelihood. Because Courtland Sutton is going to be on this team. Josh Reynolds is going to be on this team. Troy Franklin's going to be on this team. I'm still excited about Devon Vele, but I think he's ticketed for the practice squad, the way that's looking. But he's a 7th round pick. That's pretty typical. Tim Patrick did have a nice play today. Is there room for him at the end? Or is he bubble? Is he very much on the bubble?
Since my internet's cutting out, I'll just listen, Mace. But I will say this, if you can hear me, I think Tim Patrick stays. I think he stays on the 53 as kind of a player coach. Mm-hmm. You need guys like Tim Patrick around. So somehow, some way, and I agree with you, it definitely seems like Vele's bound for the weekend, and it looks like Vele on the PS.
Yes, I think so too. But there are going to be some talented players that don't make it. Like, I know we said this months ago, but Brandon Johnson, for example, Jalen Virgil. Now, Virgil's interesting because there could be a role for him on kickoffs, and that kickoff play, that's going to have some impact here. It's funny, I mentioned all the receivers. Didn't mention Marvin Mims Jr. He's on the team. But what if they decide, for example, that the best kickoff return duo is Marvin Mims Jr. and Jalen Virgil? Do you find a way to get Virgil on there as well? I mean, this is what I mean when I say, like, there are going to be names that if you've been following this team closely the last 3 years, if you've been monitoring it through training camps over the years, there are going to be names that Broncos fans know that do not make the cut at receiver. Now, I don't know who in the room could be a wide receiver one, like a top level wide receiver one. I don't know if that'll emerge. Certainly, I don't know if you saw the incentive structure on Courtland Sutton. There's an incentive that could involve 1,500 yards or 10 touchdowns. I think probably the latter is much more likely than the former. There are some team-based incentives too, which I like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it. I think Aaron tweeted that out, right? Earlier today. So
yeah,
we've got a picture of it, of the incentives for Courtland Sutton. And then it comes down to the tight ends, and we're going to play plenty from Coach Payton. But when he said Greg Dulcich and Lucas Krull are kind of the same guy, it was like, is that for the same spot? For one spot?
Ooh. I don't think so. I think they both still make it. But it's interesting. Adam Troutman's making this team. Because he's the all-around guy. In fact, I would be shocked if you see a name other than Adam Troutman at the top of the first depth chart that comes out probably, I think, 5 days before the Colts game. I'd be surprised if you see any other name there as tight end one. Just because he's the best all-around. Now, I still think they'll have 4 tight ends, but if you start having to, there's some hard choices here among the skill players. I mean, you might keep 3 quarterbacks. I mean, Sean Payton has left that possibility open now. He said that was possibly in play. It may well definitely be in play. And yeah, it's actually a sign that this even though this roster, you see like ESPN ranking at 31, was it PFF? The PFF had it 32, right?
32, yeah. Yep.
I heard you on the radio yesterday kind of going off on this for a little bit. And I think it's much better than that. And the way I know that this roster is much better than that is that making some of these potential cuts, if you do a projection, is harder. We're going to have a year where some of the names that get cut, it hurts. And I think in particular, I'm excited about where the offensive talent is going. I think on defense, there's still, some concerns, although you did get Caden Stearns back on the practice field today. He's, steadily working his way back from the knee injury, but you saw him out there on the walkthrough aligned with PJ Locke while Brandon Jones deals with a hamstring issue. Jones will be out at least a week. Yeah, you don't want to mess around with that. You hope that's not something that dogs him all year. Like, I mean, wouldn't that just be a kick in the you know what?
Well, coach said 2 weeks, right?
Potentially,
Didn't he
at
say
least a
2
week.
weeks for Brandon
At
Jones?
least a week, potentially 2.
I don't like the sound of that.
Well, that also tells me like they're taking extra precaution because they don't want this thing to linger. Look,
Mhm.
you want him to learn the defense, yes, but you want him healthy and out there. If you told me they were putting him on the shelf for the next 5 weeks and just said, okay, let's focus on getting him back on the field in time to get the full week of prep before the Seahawks game, I'd be okay with that.
Let's play a couple of clips because we have one we haven't played yet, and then we have one from today. So Payton yesterday talking about quarterback rotation. It's super short. And then we're going to play him today saying the rotation will change. Here's coach.
In theory, it's Wilson's turn to play with the
Yeah, and I said I'd fill you in tomorrow. We'll see how it goes.
because we'll see before you fill us in.
Yeah, but I'll fill you in before, when you see.
So he filled us in. And then now he says the rotation one day will change.
They're doing well. I think they're doing well. We don't have, a sum total, but, the rotation's been pretty consistent. I think that will begin to change a little bit as we get into the next week and a half, 2 weeks.
The next week and a half, 2 weeks.
There's a clue.
Yes. So what that tells me is another 6 days of rotation. And then it narrows down. A week and a half, it's not quite a week and a half, but it's 9 days until the first practice of a game week, which would be a week from Monday. That I think becomes the demarcation point. So basically what this would mean is you have 6 practices between now and next Saturday. That's another, Jarrett Stidham started today. That would mean Bo Nix on Monday, Zach Wilson Tuesday, Stidham Wednesday, Nix Thursday, Wilson Friday, and then Stidham on Saturday, which actually I think is a little bit of a tell because that practice on that second Saturday for most teams is usually one of the more intense. It's usually something of a simulation scrimmage type of thing. It's usually when you see goal line work. And I think if they maintain the fidelity to the rotation as it is right now, I think it's significant they would give Stidham that day as it works out. You with me, Cecil? Connections.
Yeah, it's trying.
The connection is bucking, huh?
I'm listening, Mace. Yeah, I'm listening so we can keep talking and hope it continues to work out. Gage says OBT after dark. That's right.
Yes. Now I lost you. Or did you lose me?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Man. So anyway.
Yeah, it's rough. That's rough.
It's rough.
But
it was a little rough for Bo Nix today when he threw the interception, but he bounced back.
Ooh, good one.
Yes.
Good one. I like it.
One of the reasons why we want to do this show tonight, though, it wasn't just about the quarterbacks, although obviously that's the point where we start. I know you would like to see this competition consolidated to 2 sooner rather than later. When you hear Sean Payton say a week and a half, that means maybe it's going to go on for a little bit longer. I know there was some speculation among the media at practice on Saturday that maybe it ends Monday. But we'll see. If we see Jarrett Stidham with the ones Monday, then we know it ended. Because then it's down to Stidham and Nix probably, based on what we've seen. But another reason we want to do this show tonight is there's some interesting stuff about Garett Bolles worth talking about. Because Bolles did speak on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And he is part of the reason why the Broncos have one of the most expensive offensive lines in football. He's on the 4th year of his deal, the one that he signed in December 2020 after his career year. he made it very clear how much he wants to be a Bronco. But it was interesting that I asked Sean Payton about, the vision for Garett Bolles and where he needs to go. And I asked Garett Bolles kind of about, kind of where things stood for him. Both of them pointed to the same thing. You want to play the first comment from Sean Payton, the longer one? Hi, it's me. And unfortunately, because Cecil is the admin on this, I don't have the ability to play clips. Hi.
Hi, am I back? Do you want me to
You're
play the
back.
Bulls video?
What?
Yeah.
Play
You
the
want- you want
longer
to
of
play
the
Bubbles?
the longer of the two Sean Payton comments on Bolles. Let's start there.
All right. Here we go.
I think the thing that's going for me is I haven't played football for that long. I didn't play that much in college. My body's fresh. I feel like I'm 25, to be honest with you, maybe even 22. Sometimes probably a little bit younger. But I feel great. My body feels great. My mind feels great. I'm humbled to get better every single year. I feel like that's what I've been doing. I just got to take care of my body, eat right, sleep right, and do everything I can. But, the training staff here and the stuff that we have here has just put me in great positions to be who I am. I'm the strongest and fastest I've ever been. At 32 years old, that just speaks volume for the people we have here, and that, puts me on the right plan, meal plan and workout program. And so I'm just beyond grateful. Like I said, y'all, man, I love being a Bronco. I love the city. I love everything about this organization. We're going in the right direction. I don't think there's anyone else in this building that wants to win more here than me, just because I've been here the longest and I've seen, the history we have and, the legends that we have in this organization. And, I just feel like it's, my job to continue to build that and continue to create this team that we need to go forward.
That wasn't the Sean Payton comment on Bolles.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I just heard Bulls and long one. But I can say Bulls run game or Bulls younger than he is. Those are the two Payton
Run
clips we have.
run game.
Okay, this one's right here.
I'd say if there's one area that he's working on daily with Zach is landmarks in the run game. He's very natural at pass protection, getting to the right hat placements in the run game, whether he's play side or on the backside. I think some of those things are areas that he's worked quite a bit on.
Okay, now Bolles on run game improvement.
Okay.
Great. It's only the second time in my career that I've had the same O-line coach and the same head coach twice. With Mike Munchak and Coach Van Giots, and now, Coach Payton and Coach Streep. So, I feel very comfortable. I think I played my best ball last time I did this and the second time in my offense in 2020. So, just being comfortable with it, knowing my assignments, and just getting better every day. I just got to fix some things in the run game and get comfortable with that. And then, the pass game is my cup of tea. So I just got to switch those roles and just, focus on that and do what the coaches asked me to do and, have one of my best seasons ever.
It was interesting that both independently said run game.
Yep. They're going to
For a
run the
couple
hell
of
out of the
reasons.
ball?
Yeah, for a couple of reasons. First of all, for Garett Bolles, it's an area that even here in year 80 can still get better. But it also tells you what's the point of emphasis of this team. What is this Bronco? You've got a rookie quarterback, but this team is going to butter its bread on the ground. This is, makes me think they'll keep 4 running backs, Cease. They're going to run that much.
Okay. So
Okay.
Samaji's safe.
Maybe. But again, you've got a crunch. We know Sean Payton has said 2 things that can help a rookie quarterback, a young quarterback, are run game and defense. So this thing may not be saucy and sexy this year.
I'm okay with that.
I am too.
What's that say about tight ends? Not that I'm stuck on the tight ends, but you want run blockers. Dulcich can't run block.
Well, there's the interesting thing right there, because Lucas Kroll is a bigger body. Not just, he's got about the same length as Greg Dulcich. I'd say this. Let's say that Lucas Kroll is 80% the pass catcher of Greg Dulcich. Is that fair? Maybe 75, 80%? Okay.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
But
Dulcich is very talented. We're seeing it.
yes. But what percentage of Lucas Kroll physically as a blocker is Greg Dulcich? And this is not to say Lucas Kroll is a great blocker, but he has a better shot. Like he's the body type. Because Greg Dulcich has lost weight. Like he was, 243 when he came in. He's dropped weight from that. Greg Dulcich realistically isn't going to be an inline tight end. Lucas Kroll can go inline, can line up next to the tackle. So what I'm saying is that, that's where you say, okay, does Greg Dulcich fit if they're going to pound the rock? Now, the other thing is, what if you just treat Greg Dulcich not as a tight end, but as something, independent? What if you just say, okay, Joker in space, whatever. We're not even considering him as a tight end. You're almost considering him another receiver, and that may be the calculus that gets him on. But again, as we've said, that receiver group has got some depth to it, right? Good problem to have. But there are gonna be some names there where you're like, oh man, that's tough. Of course, that being said, with receivers, as you and I often say, and I share with you, there's no shortage of receivers who can be productive out there. And there's a new crop that comes in every year. When was the last year you heard about a bad receiver class in the draft? Honestly.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's college football.
We talk about bad tackle classes. We talk about bad QB classes. We talk about
bad running back classes.
Bad running back classes. I can't remember the last time I looked at anyone looked at the receiver class. Oh man, this is a bad group. No, so that's another reason why, respectfully, when you look back at some of the moves of George Payton, you say, okay, was paying the wide receivers the right move? Hasn't worked. That really didn't work out, paying the receivers. And if we see a productive year out of Josh Reynolds, and that's going to be more evidence because you're getting Josh Reynolds for relative pennies on the dollar. You waited a couple of weeks in free agency, and the price dropped, and you got him for a very affordable deal.
Mm-hmm. And he's been one of the best players out there. Mm-hmm. He's been one of the most consistent players out there, and it doesn't matter who's throwing him the ball. That's something you went through today, Mace, with the quarterbacks, is you are asking them about like working with different players, different linemen and centers specifically.
Yes. Because now what's interesting is that the rotation at center has stopped. It's been Luke Wattenberg all week at center. Sean Payton also talked about giving Alex Forsyth some reps at guard. I'm not talking about starting guard, I'm talking about depth. But I think that's interesting. What that tells me is that Alex Forsyth, maybe his role this year is swing. He's your interior swing backup. That's what maybe is in the mix for him, which would put somebody like Calvin Throckmorton, who they signed in free agency, that would put him on the bubble. It would put Sam Mustipher very much on the bubble. It also hit me that because you could potentially pass some offensive linemen to the practice squad, that maybe if you're looking for a spot to steal, maybe it ends up being on the offensive line. What if you're talking about only 8 offensive linemen on the 53? Okay. Forsyth, swing interior. Shoot, maybe there's even a universe where if you can pass enough guys to the practice squad, it's 7. It's 7 offensive linemen on the 53. What if the only guys that are on the 53 beyond the starters are Alex Palczewski and Alex Forsyth?
Could happen.
And then
it's a bit unusual,
you're saying, okay,
but...
can we sneak Matt Pert, Calvin Throckmorton, Demontre Jacobs,
Frank Crum,
Frank Crum to the practice squad, and that's where our depth comes from. Yes. And maybe that allows you to go heavy at the skill spots. Maybe that allows you to say, okay, we'll keep Nate Adkins and Lucas Kroll and Adam Troutman, and we'll treat Greg Dulcich as just his own guy. We're maybe just literally call him a joker. Sean Payton talks about the joker. Maybe just say, okay, on the roster, he's a joker. He's a smoker. He's a midnight joker.
Something. Who was it that said? I was talking to somebody that said Dulcich commented on that. They might have had a one-on-one with him off to the side, and he's like, "I'm just trying to make the team." Because somebody's like, "What do you think of the Joker?" Because that was the talk last year. It's like, "It's the Joker," and it's like, well, there's multiple Jokers. Jalil's a Joker. But Greg could be one as well.
There are different types of Jokers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jalil's more of out of the backfield Joker, and then Dulcich is going to be kind of big slot type. But is there?
Rachel also asked me about a rumor of Samaje Perine for Dawson Knox. I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
Somebody put that out there.
I don't know where that started.
Someone put that out there as a joke.
That's dumb.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm sorry.
Don't we have enough problem with misinformation and disinformation in the political sphere? We don't need it in sports.
Yeah, we got enough problems in sports too, but either way, figure out a way if they could keep Samaje. Somebody in the chat room asked what Samaje do as a runner. Samaje's more than fine as a runner. More than fine. I know you see him as a receiver, he'll catch 50 passes, whatever, but he's a fine runner. He's not, great compared to what Estime could be or what Javonte has been, and hopefully he'll get back to it, Mace.
He's a fine runner. What a good runner he could be. But his life, his love, and his lady is the sea. Sorry.
Hey, he had 300 yards and 8 touchdowns against BK's Kansas Jayhawks.
What?
Yes. He had 300 yards and 8 touchdowns against BK's Kansas Jayhawks.
Yes.
In college.
Well, how bad were the Jayhawks back then? I mean, that was the point where they basically weren't even, for all intents and purposes, weren't even a Division I program. Like, if there were promotion and relegation in college football, KU would have dropped not only out of FBS but out of FCS. They would have been Division II. So let's just say Samaje Perine, that was against KU in 2017 or so,
something like that.
2016, 2017. Yeah. You or I could average 5 yards a carry against KU at that time.
You know what we didn't play the other day? Just because we didn't have it during the show, but J-Dub losing weight. Let's talk a little Javonte, because Javante's look real good. We got this clip we're gonna play from Javonte right now.
It was just one of my goals to get a little slimmer, just to move a little bit better in training camp, things like that. And he set me a goal weight, and I got to it.
How much did you drop and what do you weigh now?
11 pounds and 221.
Is there any secret? What's the trick to dropping 11 pounds in 6 weeks?
Whole lot of sacrifices.
What's the number one sacrifice you gave up to?
I think the biggest thing, I just didn't eat after 7 p.m. And I just cut all my snacks out because I like to snack a lot, like Takis and things like that. I cut all that out.
When did you start to feel any difference?
Probably about halfway through my training in North Carolina. I just felt like I started feeling like my old self, just moving. I felt a lot more shiftier, things like that.
11 pounds is making a big difference for Javonte.
Yeah, and in 6 weeks, that's pretty good. That's impressive. Wish I could lose weight like that.
Well, on soda, you average 3 to 5 pounds a week for a male per week.
Maybe.
So,
are we sure he didn't use soda?
Maybe. They're the official weight loss company of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
So, but somebody on Twitter was like, exactly. Somebody said you should have said that to Sean when he cut you off. Let me finish. Yeah, that would have gone over well. By the way, Matthew Berry reached out to me today about that. He sent me a text. I was like, "What's up, Matthew?" Shout out Matthew Berry. But like with Javonte, somebody on Twitter was like, this is a 180 from what you said, but yeah, because in mini camp he looked overweight and sluggish.
Yeah.
We didn't know he was going to lose 11 pounds and get that burst back.
Hey, give him credit for realizing, look, that when the coach is telling you you need to lose weight, like that meeting doesn't happen if everything's all right for Javonte Williams with the Broncos. He looks good this week. He had another nice run today. And of course, I mentioned that catch that he had in the end zone from Bo Nix on the wheel route. He did not look good in OTAs and minicamp. No lies told. He looks slow. He looks sluggish.
Mhm.
And I think what's
it's different now.
encouraging, what's encouraging
It's different
is
now.
that,
Like
is that
we have
we're
new
seeing-
information.
Yes. As they said in draft day, we live in a different world than we lived in 7 weeks ago. 7 weeks ago, we lived in the world where Javonte Williams did not look like the first or even the second best running back out there. Now he does. Give him all the credit in the world. And it's not that Jaleel McLaughlin has looked bad. He had a couple of nice runs the last couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he still looks like his old self. The story is Javonte. That Javonte stepped up. And, this is also, credit to Sean Payton for, bringing him in. Although it was interesting, like, I asked Javonte kind of how he received it. Because, hey, if someone tells you, hey, you got to lose some weight, that kind of ticks you off, right? Might get you upset. And he handled it pretty well. Although I thought the way Sean Payton said it, and like the way he explained it was that he said he was watching North Carolina film and acting like he didn't know which running back was which, because of course they had Michael Carter at the same time as Javonte Williams. Like, okay, is that you?
Lightning storm, everybody. We're working through it, so we appreciate everyone for their patience.
When that happens, do I still go out there, or does it like mess me
Yeah,
up?
you're still going.
Well, I'm out there. I'm out
So be
there.
careful.
Yes. I'm way out there.
That's what Seth said on the first day of training camp on Friday when he's like, OBT's a BFD. He's like, you and Mace, man, you guys are so great together. And even Ben said that from Sports Talk Denver channel.
Yes.
He's like, you and Mace, you guys are like perfect together. And I'm like, well, we always wanted to do this. Even through a lightning storm at the middle of the night, Mace.
Mm-hmm.
We always wanted to do this.
I know. But yeah, look, I think it's to be celebrated that Javonte Williams is doing well. But yeah, there were no lies told about where he stood based on where he was in minicamp and OTAs. That's true. And that the weight loss meeting is basically the bleeper get off the pot moment for him, right? Well, he bleeped. And now he looks like a legit RB1 again. And with the Broncos emphasizing the run, as we discussed earlier on the show, this is a huge opportunity for him. But emphasizing the run means there's going to be plenty to go around. Whether if they keep 4 backs, everyone's going to get some opportunities. If they keep 3 backs, well, let's say, look, if they keep 3 backs, barring injury, the 3 backs are going to be Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Estime, because I don't think that they don't think they can sneak Estime through, I'm sure. And there's going to be room for all of them to get opportunities. I think Cecil's frozen. Look at that. I mean, it stinks being frozen when you're on a show, because sometimes you're left with that awkward face that right now Cecil Lammey appears to have. I'm sure, I know it's happened to me. I'm not very thrilled about that, but hey, you know what? I'm sure he would appreciate if I kept going. What I wanted to get into with him on this show were some of the players who stood out, because there was one player I wanted to ask Sean Payton about today, and that's Thomas Incoom. And he's had a good week. Think when you cover training camp, you're looking for patterns. You're looking for players that are stacking days. A lot of guys can have a good day, but can they do it 2, 3, 4 times in a row? Can they make plays 2, 3, 4 days in a row? Well, Thomas Incoom has recorded a quarterback pressure every day so far. Now, putting pads on when you get to next week, that's going to tell the tale. I know I sound like Sean Payton saying that. He always says that. So let's put that caveat out there because it's real and it's valid. But hi, Cecil. I'm talking about Thomas Incoom.
Yep.
We're getting, because now we're getting into players who stood out. The thing I like about Incoom, he again had a pressure. He is stacking days. We'll have a better idea when the pads go on, just to reset you about where we were. But he's one of the under the radar standouts. I'm waiting to see it from Jonah Ellis. I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen it from Incoom.
Well, Incoom's been the one making plays every day. I heard you talk about that with Dan Jacobs. Like every day he's making plays, and that's why they keep him around. Much like J.L. Skinner, who's making plays. It's nice seeing these guys they didn't play make plays or like earn another spot. We mentioned Forsyth, Skinner, Riley Moss, Thomas Incoom, guys they kept around, didn't play much, if at all, and they're all coming through.
Remember that. Now, what's interesting with Riley Moss, of course, is he's kind of in this three-way battle for a starting position at corner. They stopped rotating centers. They rotated corners. So it's been the Damari Mathis, Riley Moss, Levi Wallace rotation on that corner side opposite of Pat Surtain. Moss has had some moments. Levi Wallace is the safe. He's the safest choice, and of course, he had the pick today off of Bo Nix. He's the safest choice there. But I like what Moss and I like what Damari Mathis has done as well. I think Damari's playing with a lot more confidence and assertiveness out there so far. Yeah. Hi. I see you. I see you, Cecil Lammey. I appreciate you. By the way, I appreciate you listening to me on the radio. I mentioned listening to you on the radio. You listening to me when I was on with Dan Jacobs. Although with Dan, you probably noticed how little football Dan and I talked. We were talking. We were talking
tiny
about
bit, tiny at the end.
Yeah, like we were talking about the decline of country music stars and like how you go from playing stadiums to playing, some small theater in Wisconsin, Dells, Wisconsin. Yeah. He was ripping on TV people, by the way. I didn't like that. That didn't sit well with me.
Yeah, it's Dan. He's old school, like controversial radio guy. So I do appreciate the style because it reminds me of like old Urban Joe, because that's how he came up, was under Urban Joe.
Yeah.
But yeah, we all got work to do. You know what I mean? Out at training camp.
Yeah,
so
we got in the comment section. I want to bring this up because his name's come up a couple of times. That's Enia Wazarike, who is still not out there. He is now. Here's where things stand. Once a year had passed from his gambling suspension, he was eligible to apply for reinstatement. It wasn't just instantaneously the suspension ended. He had to apply for reinstatement. Now, one of the things that's complicating it right now is he hasn't been charged, but there's an Arapahoe County and state of Colorado investigation into some of the stuff he was involved with. He had the charges dropped in Iowa for that ring that he was alleged to have been involved with around Iowa State. But the thing that's floating in play, and this was part of his suspension, was allegations that he bet on Broncos games as a rookie. That's big. Like if that's true, that is a potential snag in him being reinstated. Like he would have to really walk that one back. The NFL is kind of in a weird spot. But the other thing with gambling suspensions are they're considered permanent, and you can apply for reinstatement after a year. That's the thing. So when he got suspended last year, it was at least a year, but officially considered a permanent suspension unless the NFL allowed him to come back. So that's where it stands. That's where it stands right now. You've got this other thing floating out there. That's got to have some resolution before you end up seeing any Awazarike back on the field.
Let's set up, Mace, and hopefully you can hear me, about the Jarrett Stidham question and answers. Yeah, you had a good question for Jarrett Stidham. I'm going to play that clip, and let's have you react to it, because I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I think whenever, like today I was in the huddle with the ones, and, I've been in the huddle with the other two groups this week as well, and it's, it's like I love those guys getting a feel for me just as much as I love getting the feel from them. How I operate in the huddle, communicating with the centers and the offensive line on certain protections or run game schemes or whatever it may be. There's a communication level there that I think is super healthy, and something, no matter who's playing, I think it's really good for guys to be seeing that, especially younger guys. We had a play during walkthrough today where I stopped the whole thing to make sure we're all on the same page, with the offensive line. So I think that's super healthy. Obviously for those guys up front, but also, for receivers, running backs, tight ends, and the quarterbacks ourselves.
So a little follow-up on that. Earlier in the press conference, he talked about how this team is very together. They socialize. They do things that, offensive guys with defensive guys, there's a lot. There's a good esprit de corps in there. Now you have the other layer on the football field where you've got not only quarterbacks shuffling 1, 2, 3 up and down, but they're shuffling receivers around left and right, tight ends. I mean, you might see Courtland Sutton catching a pass with the third unit. That's happened. That's happened in the last 4 days. They're really the only thing that's determining first, second, third unit is the offensive line. Everything else, it could be anybody at any given moment, at any given rep on offense. Defense is the stratas are pretty well established on the defensive side. Offense, there's a lot of not volatility, but mobility. And it's healthy. You've got an environment where you've got players that are getting accustomed to each other. It means that if you have a roster that has some surprises and those who make it and some who don't, then you're not going to have to worry about saying, player X hasn't taken a snap with this guy. Like, it would come up, for example, at center that, this quarterback only took snaps with this center, so he's got to get accustomed to it. Well, Jarrett Stidham has taken snaps from Luke Wattenberg, from Alex Forsyth, from Sam Mustipher. No matter which one of those centers ends up being in there, he's got experience with him. And that's a positive of moving up and down. No matter which receivers end up making it, Jarrett Stidham, Bo Nix, Zach Wilson, they've all thrown passes to everybody. They've all thrown passes to Courtland Sutton. They've all thrown passes to Michael Bandy. They've all thrown passes to Josh Reynolds. They've all thrown passes to Devon Vele. So you're not going to have this situation where, we got to build up the chemistry. You're establishing chemistry with more people right now, which I think actually may end up leading to the potential of some surprises as the roster deadline nears, because you're going to be able to evaluate some of these lesser heralded players with ones who end up at the top of the depth chart.
Right. And I'm going to play another Jarrett Stidham clip as I'm back. And he's saying how the Broncos are different. I like this. And the confidence from Jarrett Stidham. I really like that too.
Yeah, this is one of I tell people this when they ask me, like, how do you like Denver? And one of my favorite things to say is I've never been around a team that has this many guys so close. And it's not just like offensive guys. Obviously, that was mostly receivers, running backs, tight ends, that sort of thing. But even defensive guys, special teams, like we all hang out all the time, whether it's with our wives, girlfriends, dinners, outside of the facility. It's just a great group of guys to be around. And obviously, I feel like that translates to the field. And whenever you're able to talk about certain things in a way it's not condescending, it's coming from a place of genuine, love and respect for one another. I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, like that bonding that they have, that the team has. It's cool to hear that. I mean, I think we saw some indication of it last year, and also I think it's interesting that Jarrett Stidham is saying that because, or I think one of the reasons why Stidham feels that way is because he does such a good job involving other people. You and I have talked about this. We're in the locker room. We're in the locker room like all the time, but we're in there 3 days a week during the season. And that's enough to get some indications of, who's bonding with who, who's connecting, who isn't. Jarrett Stidham, like that guy, it was really interesting to see how many teammates liked him. And I think part of it is because Stidham's got a very open, friendly, warm personality. It was cool because it was actually cool to see, for example, how when Jerry Jeudy was having tough times, the guy that kind of really reached him and connected with him was Jarrett Stidham.
Right across the way in the locker room.
Yeah.
Because they sat across from each other.
They talk. You'd see them talking a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And when Stidham got the job, make no mistake, there were a lot of guys who were happy for him in the locker room when he ascended to the first team in week 17. They 1-1, lost in the other. The game they won was against a Chargers team that barely had anybody left at that point. But they played hard for him. They played hard for Stiddy. And they'll play hard for Stiddy if he ends up getting the job this year too. But he's all
play hard for Stiddy, play hard for Nix.
Yeah, the best thing Bo Nix can do is kind of watch and learn from Stidham. Now, Bo's got to be himself. If you're a leader, you got to do it your way, befitting your personality. But that whole thing of kind of understanding that you got to befriend everybody. You can't go into a clique, and you can't, as a quarterback, you can't retreat. And that was a difference last year. Russell Wilson, we didn't, Russ kind of kept to himself more in the times that we were there. And Stiddy was definitely more open and gregarious. There was a distance between Russ and a lot of other teammates that isn't there with Stiddy. So I think some of that Jarrett Stidham says, I think part of it is him doing the work as well. Him doing the work to connect with everybody in that locker room. And Cecil is frozen. Although that freeze, look, hey, you're back. I see you nodding.
Was I frozen for a second?
Yeah, you were frozen.
Let it go. I'm so frustrated.
It wasn't an awkward thing. It wasn't like you were frozen going or no. You were just frozen, kind of being pensive, listening to me. So that's okay. And if you're frozen now, you're smiling. See? That's not a bad look to be frozen with right there. You got a smile on your face. Not that you can hear me, but the viewers can see the smile. It's always interesting like this. I mean, this is just everything's going wrong here. You're back.
Yeah. I'm out. I'm back.
Someone says you're pretending to be a mime.
I think we got to wrap this one, unfortunately.
There you froze again. But you see, that's not a good freeze right there. If you're watching on YouTube, The eyes are closed, like he's mid thought. That wasn't good. But I think what you're saying is we got to get to the like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you never miss a vid. Yeah. I can't even hear you. Oh. That's because you
I think that's a wrap, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think we're done for tonight. Yes.
This was rough, man. We got to work on that connection in a storm.
Yeah, we do. Maybe Starlink. I've actually been thinking about getting Starlink for internet.
Satellite internet? I thought that really was shaky.
Okay.
I'll
read up
maybe
some
I'm
reviews.
wrong. Maybe
Anyway.
maybe my own research that I did was bulky. So anyhow, it's been a pleasure having you with me late at night. Let's hope the next time we do this, you got a better connection. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's you. We actually have some interesting stuff coming up here in the next couple of weeks. Like we're gonna do a weekend show in a couple of weeks where Cecil's gonna be back here, and I'm gonna be in Indianapolis getting ready for Broncos Colts, the preseason opener. Of course, Broncos open their preseason on August the 11th at Lucas Oil Stadium. So